Welcome to the AUA News Inside Track podcast, an official podcast of the American Urological Association. Thanks for listening. For more episodes of this podcast, visit www.auanet.org/podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Mark Edney. I'm chair of the AUA's Public Policy Council, and it is my distinct pleasure and privilege to talk today with Dr. Lane Palmer, who has just completed his tenure as the AUA's 121st president. Dr. Palmer is professor of urology and pediatrics at Zucker School of Medicine and chief emeritus of pediatric urology for the Northwell Health System and pediatric urology fellowship director. Lane, it's been an impactful year for the AUA, particularly in advocacy and in shaping the voice of urology. Today, we're going to take a step back and talk a bit about what you've learned, what surprised you, and what comes next. Thanks for joining us.
Well, it's really my pleasure to be here.
So your fantastic presidential address at the annual meeting this past month in Washington, D.C. focused heavily on AUA advocacy, what we've accomplished together and the road ahead. How did the advocacy component of AUA's mission come to be one of your major points of focus during your presidency?
Well, my advocacy background and public policy background led me naturally down that road towards my presidential address focusing on advocacy. As you are well aware, my advocacy days started when we had a threat in pediatric urology regarding parental choice for patients who had intersex states, where there was a move afoot to try to banish surgery as even an option for patients until they were old enough to consent, when we have lots of literature that showed that that was not a wise approach. But this was a national movement afoot to have this banished from the methodology of caring for such children. And that's when I got involved. And there was a team of us who really worked strongly together to prevent those kinds of laws from coming into play. So every bill that was put forward, and there were about 15 or 20 of them over a course of about 5 years that we were able to not allow to go forward. And I learned a lot in that process and realized how important advocacy is to the lifeblood of all medicine, but urology in particular. And Ann Richards' statement that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu really resonates with me. And you come to realize that many areas of medicine are poorly represented in public policy, and that everyone else who has any involvement in medicine has a stronger foothold than we do. And that shouldn't be the case.
Absolutely. And the group that you were a part of and helped form really were instrumental across the country at blocking some legislation that frankly would have been quite harmful, not only to urologists, but most importantly to urology patients. And kudos to you. And that was, I believe, a partnership between AUA and Society of Pediatric Urology that sort of teamed up on those efforts. And you did a tremendous job. So kudos for that. And thank you for those efforts.
Thank you.
While we're talking about advocacy, you can't talk about advocacy without talking about the PAC. And our AUA PAC has experienced tremendous growth since its inception only a few years ago, but it's still a relatively small player in the specialty advocacy space. How do we bring our PAC to the heavy hitter level in medicine? And why is that so critically important?
Well, I'll answer the second part first because it's the most obvious question, is that it's critical. You can't influence without paying to play. And while we may be right in our arguments, we may be right more ethically, we may be right scientifically, that's all well and good, but it doesn't necessarily get us where we need to be. We need to be able to be at the table, and the best way to be at the table is to provide some funding for those who are running for office, for re-election, or for primary elections. And we saw that at our advocacy summit this past year. We had several physician Congress folks and some others who weren't, who we had supported, and they attended our mixer, and they were happy to be there, and everyone who was there had access to these legislators. And so clearly, again, going back to not being at the table, we were at the table. Those folks appreciated our contributions. Not that they didn't make or break anybody's campaign, but they still appreciated the recognition that their vote and their positions that complement ours are important to us. As far as how do we make the PAC better, that's a tough one, Mark, because people just don't like to part with their money. I think we need to be more forward about the successes. Money begets money. And if we show people that this is what our money led to, and again, it wasn't just about our position, it wasn't just about the fact that we were scientifically correct. We were able to help initiate the positions that are beneficial to all doctors, honestly. I mean, most of the things that we're advocating for aren't just unique to urology, other than perhaps the Office for Men's Health, which again is not a urologic office. So it does affect other houses of medicine, the cardiologist, the psychiatrist. There are a lot of people who take care of men and whose conditions or medical conditions aren't just urologic. So I think it's important to just keep bringing the successes forward and tell make it clear to people as best we can that without your support we can't go further than where we're going, but with your support we can continue to be a driving force. I think the other part of it is to show. I had a slide that showed what different medical PACs are contributing on a yearly basis compared to what we can afford to put forward on a yearly basis, and we pale compared to many other medical societies, including optometrists and nurse practitioners. They're generating more income or more money to be able to spend from their PAC because their scope of practice issue is again their lifeblood. They want to be able to grow. Our lifeblood is a variety of things. Our lifeblood is burnout. Our lifeblood is workforce. Our lifeblood is reimbursement, and that transcends urology. But it's these are important issues to everyone, and if our contributions help to improve even a small amount on any of those issues, we need to ride that wave and try to get others to contribute.
Yeah, all excellent points. And I find when I engage individual urologists and particularly folks who haven't historically given to the pack to try to make the value proposition, what I often hear back, and you may have the same experiences, is people want sort of very concrete evidence. Well, you're like, what in the past 2 years has the pack done to make my practice of urology better or easier? I mean, they want 3 bullet points, as if there's a direct and immediate return on investment from the pack. And it's actually you have to have a much broader view of the function of the pack. And the way I describe the function of the pack is it's about expanding and securing relationships on Capitol Hill. And these relationships are so important, and they span multiple Congresses, and you develop relationships with lawmakers. And it's not always about necessarily, hey, we need your help on this bill. It's about going to the fundraiser and maintaining the relationship so that when your issue comes up, you have a friend on Capitol Hill that's going to help you. Case in point is Dr. Greg Murphy. When this men's health bill came up, we approached him. We had established a relationship with him over time. And then when the men's health bill came up and we needed a Republican co-sponsor, we went to him and said, hey, this is a great opportunity. Would you be willing to do this? He said, absolutely, I'll do that for you. And that's case in point of how maintaining these relationships through building our pack puts us in a position to strike when the iron's hot. You can't just wait for something to happen and say, oh, when we need to support this person. You've got to build the relationships early and maintain them. You've got to have a strong pack to do that. So I think we need to get away from the mentality that there's a very quick ROI on the dollars you spend on the pack. You are supporting the future of urology by your pack dollars. And results will come, but they may not come next month. They may not come this year. They will come. But it's so critically important that you continue to make those contributions. And that's how I couch it for folks.
And you're right. I mean, it's not. We never quite know when we will have an issue that needs an immediate response. But to knock on somebody's door, cold cock, we're just hi senator or congressperson. We'd like your support on the following issue. Who are you, and where have you been?
That's right. That's right.
You're right. The relationships are key, and
Right.
and as I mentioned, we don't have to be the biggest donors, but we have to be consistently in the playground with them.
That's right. And this gets to what I refer to and what others have talked about is creating a culture of giving to the pack in our specialty. Other specialties have been much better at developing a culture of giving. And certainly outside of medicine, when you look at the trial lawyers, I mean, tens of millions of dollars a year go to their PAC. It's just if you're a trial lawyer, it just becomes part of what you do to contribute money to the PAC because they defend your interests on Capitol Hill. And we wonder why we find ourselves on the losing side when medical malpractice, for example, comes up on Capitol Hill, and we struggle to get on top of that. Is because the trial lawyers lobby is so well funded, so much better funded than we are. And it's having the foresight to understand that if we want to play in that league when these issues come up, we've got to start now. We've got to build this PAC now. So everybody within the sound of this podcast, if you haven't contributed this year to the PAC, please do log in. It's super easy. And I encourage everybody to do that right now.
I could not
And
agree
so,
with you more.
yeah, pivoting away from advocacy and PAC work. So, you just finished your term as president. You had a fantastic year, and thank you for your leadership. It's a tough job. It's a time consuming job, but we're grateful for leaders like you willing to take time away from their practice, and their families, and their busy lives to lead this great organization. You did a phenomenal job. Often being at the pinnacle of leadership of an organization gives you a perspective that most in the organization, even longtime leaders, don't have. What most surprised you about your perspective as president?
I think what surprised me was the depth of the organization. The physician leadership, the lay leadership, and the staff are extraordinarily committed. And we say that generically, but when you see the commitment, the idea that everyone is in this for the mission, no matter who they are, you walk into headquarters in Lithicum, and the security guard who's sitting there he's one of us. He's part of the urology family, and he's happy to see you, and you're happy to see him. And it starts at the front door, and it keeps on going. I mean, there are so many people who made me look good this year who I never met, but I know are working hard for the mission. I just happen to be there. They'll work for Eugene as hard as they work for me, and they worked for Steve as hard as they worked for me, because it's all about the mission. And they help to make urology better. We're part of it. We have the background in it, but when it's time to get the work done and to feed ideas and to for us to bounce ideas off of them, they know a bad idea when they hear it. They know a good idea when they hear it, and they know how to make that good idea actually happen. And I can't say this is unique to the AUA, but I can tell you that it certainly makes the AUA an extraordinarily strong organization. I wish our hospital system worked as well as the AUA does. And that's something unless you're in the trenches of it and see it, I don't know that anyone really can appreciate it. And to me, that was by far the most impressive aspect of the year.
Absolutely, and I can echo those comments from my perspective as the leader in the public policy space. The staff are unbelievable, tremendously dedicated employees, and the level of expertise is astounding. Particularly when you get into really deep in the weeds of things like coding and reimbursement and interaction with organizations like CMS and Health and Human Services, research advocacy. I mean, you're getting into some deep technical weeds. The sheer level of expertise that we have at our disposal because of our AUA staff and leaders is astounding. And we are very fortunate. And I would bet, again, I'm not sure either sort of how other specialties stack up, but we've got to be amongst the best in the country in specialty medicine with respect to the dedication, the quality, the expertise, and the access that our staff allow us to get the job done that we need to do. I mean, I completely agree with you. Next question is, how would you advise a young urologist leader listening to this podcast as to how to best position yourself to serve at the highest levels of AUA leadership, even eventually the presidency? What would you say to the younger urologists is that, boy, I'd like maybe even to be president someday?
I really focus on, why are you doing this? If this is about checking boxes, find some other cause. Because you can find other things you can do where you just essentially show up and appear. That's not what this is. It's about rolling your sleeves up and being committed to the mission, the pillars of the AUA. If you want to rise to the presidency, you have to be an effective leader within your section. You can't not be part of the section and be a leader in the section. Each section's a little bit different, I think, in terms of what the criteria are for presidency. In New York section, for those who haven't didn't know I'm from the New York section by now by hearing the accent, I'd be surprised. However, um, in the New York section, you have to have been a past president of the New York section. I'm not 100% sure that all of the sections ascribe to that criterion, but you need to rise to that level within your section to be able to be considered. And to do that is where you roll up your sleeves. You're working for your section. If you want to be secretary, then you can follow the Dave Penson model and essentially get involved really early and get yourself involved in a variety of things. And they may be more mundane in the beginning, but each stepping stone leads to a higher stepping stone. And you then become significantly considered for some of the higher positions, and you make your case. And having sat on the search committees for some of these positions, there are a lot of people who apply who have made their case. And these are not necessarily easy decisions, even to weed it down, waiting for an interview. There are really a lot of talented urologists out there who have their sights set on making significant contributions to the AUA.
Yeah, fantastic. Great advice. Great advice. And so we've talked a bit so far about advocacy, the importance of advocacy and its mission and your passion for advocacy. Beyond advocacy, what do you see as the most important strategic priority for the AUA over the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think we're working on them. I mean, AI is an important wild card. It's for our benefit, but it also comes with lots of risks, and making sure that we're protecting ourselves against those risks. And the executive committee and Mike Shepard in particular, obviously, has relied on the staff to educate him and have a real understanding of where those risks are and how to best protect the organization from those risks. And we just signed a contract with Open Evidence to put our guidelines on there. That was a way to protect us against people just pilfering the information from our guidelines. So that's AI will continue to be a challenge all around. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And it will change 2 years from now compared to where we are now. I think our another issue for us is clearly manpower and how manpower affects access. And then that leads to scope of practice with APPs, which we've been on the forefront, I think, in terms of trying to provide good training for APPs so that this way they're not just winging it. They're not just showing up in a practice and being told, here, go and do this, and they don't know what they're doing. They're not getting properly trained. The course we had at the AUA this past 2 weeks ago was widely successful in terms of teaching APPs to do cystoscopy. That's a starting point. We need to do more of that because the APPs are not going away and they shouldn't go away. And we're not about to retrain or train hundreds and hundreds of new urologists to go and take the places of those who are retiring. There's a reason that locums is very popular and very successful right now, and it's just filling the niche. We don't have enough urologists, so the highest bidder is going to get the urologist, and that doesn't really help the majority of counties in this country who don't have a urologist. So I think manpower, I mean, burnout is multifactorial, so I don't really put that there per se. I think it's also where we are in the world right now. There's a lot of demand, and as technology gets more sophisticated, there's more ways to test the urinary tract. It leads to more patients and more uh, either procedures or testing, or at least more patients that need to be managed compared to the way it was in the 90s when I was a resident. It was very different. So I think that's another aspect that the AUA will continue to lead on, because we tend to lead on almost everything. We're just we're so forward thinking. And so there are issues that we're working on that I don't know that other people are necessarily taking into consideration. We're not just reactive, we're very proactive.
Very good. So winding down, just a couple more questions. As you
Okay.
reflect on your year as president, um, what are you most proud of over the course of that year? And what do you see as your legacy as you leave this position of highest leadership in the organization?
Well, I think they're related. So I'm the first pediatric urologist to be president of the AUA. And I was surprised when I came to realize that. I went through the whole list of AUA presidents from the beginning, and pediatric urology is a relatively young game. It's not doesn't date back to 1925 or 1903. It really dates back to the 70s, and most pediatric urologists were not practicing full-time pediatric urology. They were just dabbling in it and dabbling in adult medicine or adult urology. It really wasn't until the 80s that you had full-time people who were practicing pediatric urology full-time. But it still took 45 years or so for there to be someone who wasn't practicing both adult and pediatric urology. That was committed to only 100% pediatric urology, and it turns out that it was me. And I'm proud of that. And I hope that this serves as a call to other pediatric urologists or even other subspecialists who are in less represented specialties or subspecialties to realize that you still can serve the AUA even if you're not practicing oncology or general adult urology. So I'm proud that I was able to get through the cut. We had a very competitive election in the New York section. There were several really, really extraordinary candidates who I would have been happy to lose to any of them, to be honest with you, and would not have thought I mean, they were extraordinarily deserving. And so I'm privileged and honored that the New York section entrusted me with this position. But I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I can represent our pediatric urology colleagues. As far as what I've done, I think some of that is reflected in that. I think I came to the position with a different frame of reference than other presidents who are taking care of what you might consider the more mainstream urology conditions. And I was in private practice for a long time, and then I went into full-time practice. And so I had a different perspective. I think that some others that have only been in an academic setting and those who have been in a fully employed or private practice setting, but non-academic. So I've had both of them. And I think that also brought a different perspective to the board.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Palmer, this has been a wide-ranging conversation. We've covered a lot of ground, and I want to thank you very much for your time, for your insight, and most importantly, for your leadership over the past year. You've really shepherded our organization, our great organization, in a really respectful way, and you've done a masterful job. So thank you for that. And I want to give you the last word. Is there anything else that you want to put out for the audience before we sign off?
Well, a couple of things. First, I want to thank you, Mark. I mean, the work you do with the public policy and your passion for advocacy is unparalleled. And you write every aspect of the public policy domain that you've touched, you've raised. And we need more Mark Edneys. And so there's the message, folks. All you need to do is get involved, and then you'll see what your talents are able to bring to the table. Because every achievement in the advocacy arena, it benefits all urologists, regardless of their specialty, regardless of their generation. There's nothing that isn't put forward that we work on that doesn't affect everyone. So I encourage everyone to get involved, whether it's financially only. If that's all you're going to do financially, we're very happy for you to contribute to the PAC. But we need your time, we need your efforts, we need your energy. And with that, urology will continue to outshine the small workforce that we are when it comes to advocacy, as we do with everything else. So I enthusiastically support all of you to just inquire. Any of us will be happy to answer any of your questions as to how you might get involved.
Well said. Thank you for your kind words. And thank you again. And thank the listeners for tuning in to this edition of the podcast. We appreciate you listening.
This has been an AUA News Inside Track podcast. Thanks for listening. For more episodes of this podcast, visit www.auanet.org/podcast.